Well, grace to you and peace from God our Father and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. I am, for the most part, a product of the 1960s, 1970s. I grew up in Northern California. It was an interesting time. It was a chaotic time. The Vietnam War was going on. The Black Panthers were a presence in our community. Women's liberation caused a lot of consternation. Watergate was soon to happen. There were peace demonstrations in our community, and it was an interesting experience. At that time, from what I understand, the peace symbol sort of took root here in the United States. It had its origin in 1958 in Great Britain as a demonstration against nuclear deployment. But in the United States, we embraced the peace symbol as a way to confront the chaos that seemed to be ever present. I remember probably in 7th grade of wearing the peace symbol as a patch on the rear end of my jeans. And I thought I was cool. I remember in auto shop creating a metal disc in the form of a peace symbol that would go onto my friend's front emblem of his Volkswagen bus. Take the VW off, put the peace symbol on, and that would tell everybody exactly what we stood for. Isn't it ironic that one of the spokespersons for the peace movement, John Lennon, who penned that great song, Give Peace a Chance, ended up being violently murdered on the streets of New York City in 1980. I kind of look to that moment as the defining moment to the end of the peace movement. So when things are interesting, when things are chaotic, and when things are hard, we turn to the Scriptures. So let me change gears for a second. If you want to read the Old Testament and understand that there are two things that are critically important. The first thing is to know that the Old Testament is largely a political document. It is told for the benefit of a group of people called the Israelites, who lived against the backdrop of other cultures that competed with them and offered different political, philosophical, and religious understandings. You see, the Israelites believed that they were special, and indeed they were. They were the only culture that was monotheistic. All the others believed in a pantheon of gods, and in order to survive in the midst of it all, there was a heavy cost to pay. The second thing that you need to know about the Old Testament is the most significant moment probably isn't when God called Abraham, and it's not when Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt, and it's not even when David was crowned king. The most significant event in the Old Testament is when the Assyrian army was pressing down upon the northern and southern kingdom in about the year 587 BC. Pretty much the whole Old Testament was either written a little bit before that time, or at that time, or just after that time. The captivity of the Israelites was a crowning moment, a significant moment. And in that 100-year period of time, that span of time, almost all of the Old Testament was put to words. And so, enter the prophet Isaiah. I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you are an Israelite. You are living in the southern kingdom. Already your cousins to the north have either been killed or captured by the approaching Assyrian army. And you know it's just a matter of time before war will be in the air for you as well. And you hear about a prophet in the big city of Jerusalem who is talking about the potential, the possibility of a new king coming on the scene and it piques your interest because the words that he uses to describe this new king sound remotely familiar, because you heard stories about King David. King David would have existed 325 years before you, but the stories of David have been told over and over and over. And this prophet in Jerusalem is talking about this guy who comes from the house of Jesse, who has the pleasure of God resting upon him, and who will do things to bring about a way of peace. He talks about the leopard and the lamb lying down together. And what does that do to you? It makes you excited, right? Because you are hoping that as David once did, so now this new king will do. And unify the nation, and strengthen the borders, and increase security, and create a singular focus on what it means to be an Israelite living in the country of Judah. But it never happens. It never happens. The dream of Isaiah never takes place. The southern kingdom is captured. Now, if you were a person who had an education, or if you were a skilled artisan, a craft person, chances are, with the Assyrian army coming into Judah, you would be taken out as a captive, as a slave in a foreign country. But if you were a soldier, a laborer, a farmer, you'd be killed. And that's if you were a man. If you were a woman, you don't even want to know what would happen to you. Isaiah's dream appears to be a hollow dream. If you want to be an atheist, this is one of those passages that you can point to and you can say, see, it was a hoax. It was a lie. It was a pipe dream. When the Assyrian army invades Judah, the Israelites will not know political peace ever again. Ever again. From that point forward until about 1948, the Israelites will be dominated under the control of somebody else. It's going to be the Assyrians first, and then the Babylonians, and then the Greeks, and then the Romans, and then the Byzantine, and then the Caliphites, and then the Christian Crusaders, and then the Ottoman Empire, and then finally the British Empire. And in 1948, Israel becomes its own nation state. But you and I both know it has been anything but peace since then. So suffice it to say, there will never be political peace in Israel. And if you believe that there is a country on the face of this earth who has the power to enforce global peace, think again. Because nobody does. Not even the United States of America. And so we sing our Christmas carols at this time of the year, and many of them speak of peace. And we hear from the prophets long ago who foretold of a time of peace, but there is so much hurting in this world. There's so much harming of one another, so much destruction, so much war, and there is so little peace. Peace seems only to be a dream. Peace is such a dream in such political situations as Ethiopia or the Sudan. Peace is only a dream in Mosul or Aleppo. Peace is only a dream in Kirkuk. And obviously peace is only a dream in all those many dotted immigration camps all throughout Europe. And peace is only a dream for those families that have been ripped apart by terrorism, whether in Paris or Brussels or Pakistan or Libya or Orlando. And I know that peace is only a dream in many homes right now as well. They say that the day after Thanksgiving is the busiest shopping day of the year. But I have been told that the week after New Year's is the most popular time for divorces to take place. People just simply wait until the holidays are over so that they can put an end to the warfare that takes place behind closed doors. And I know peace is something that is not existent in people's personal lives, that their emotional selves are in turmoil. There are so many tensions, so many stresses. We get ulcers, we get migraines, we get heart attacks, we explode with anger at slow drivers, at clerks at stores, at children in our homes. And every once in a while at this time of the year, we sing a song by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow entitled "The Bells of Christmas." I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat, "Peace on earth, goodwill towards men." In despair I bowed my head, "There is no peace on earth," I said, "but hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill toward men." Longfellow wrote those words during the American Civil War, a war that claimed the life of his wife and brought crippling injuries to his oldest son. Is there something wrong with us human beings? Is there something wrong with us that we would destroy one another? We are the only species on earth that will murder and torture its own. We have the capacity to wipe out 500 million people in less than an hour. What's wrong with us that men and women who are called husband and wife can hurt each other so deeply? What is wrong with us when mothers and fathers will abuse their own children? What's wrong with us? Is peace an impossible dream? Here's what I know. Peace will never come to you from an outside agency. No government, no political party, no institution, no nonprofit, not even the church will bring peace to your life. And no relationship will bring peace to your life either. No relationship that you have with friends or neighbors or even family. There is more unpeace outside of us and that will affect us than there could ever be peace that will bring comfort and hope. You may live with chaos, but the chaos is always coming to you from the outside. And in fact, here is the further truth. You may be the contributor of unpeace or chaos in the lives of those around you. So Isaiah has this dream of a king who will bring peace, and I doubt that he could ever have imagined exactly how God was going to fulfill that dream. In fact, I would suggest that Isaiah went to his death believing it would never happen. But God did make this dream come true. Simply because we are so flawed and we are so messed up. Because we hurt one another and harm one another, God sent his own Son, Jesus, the Prince of Peace. And Jesus came to show us what peace really looked like. Not as an outside agency that would come inside, but a growth from within inside to explore outside. You see, Jesus not only taught about peace, taught about forgiveness, taught about grace, taught about turning the other cheek, but he also lived it to the point of going to the cross and giving himself to those who would hurt him. And if that's not amazingly enough, when he rose from the grave, when the cross did its worst and it was not enough, he came back, not to bring vengeance or retribution to those who spit upon him, denied him, walked away from him, and killed him. In other words, us. But he loved them. And he keeps coming to love us. Where does this all begin? Where it always begins. It begins inside of us, and in me, in you, the Prince of Peace, to come to live inside. You know, when that happens, then the goodness of Christ begins to take on shape and to affect our character so that we live lives that will not hurt or harm or injure others. Here's what Isaiah further says in chapter 11. Those who know me will not hurt or destroy on my holy mountain, says the Lord. So what does peace look like to you in this season? If peace is just simply a mood you get into, if peace is something you seek refuge in when you come to worship and sing the songs and pray the prayers, if peace is about the carols that are sung or the gifts that are given and received, well then peace might come and be a lovely experience, but it will be short-lived. Please understand this. The primary experience for a Christian is for the Holy Spirit, the presence of God's peace, to live inside of you. When Christ lives inside of you, then you begin to be committed not to hurt, not to harm, not to injure. And that means physically, verbally, socially, financially, sexually, spiritually, in every way. No hurting, no harming, no injuries. You know, I quoted Longfellow earlier. You remember he said, "And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth," I said. But there's more. Longfellow does not leave us in despair. "Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill toward all." You know, when I was little, I used to believe that Christmas was all about celebrating the birth of the Prince of Peace into the world. And that's partly right. But the truer sense of it all is that in knowing my life and our lives and the unpeace that lives so often within us, Christmas is about the good news that Jesus, Prince of Peace, has come to live inside of us. May the peace of God, which passes all human understanding, guard and keep your minds in Christ Jesus our Lord, this season and for the rest of your lives. Amen. The peace of the Lord be with you always. I invite you to rise and share the peace of Christ with those